The Amish are perhaps best known for rejecting many modern technologies. On the whole, and yes, there are exceptions,
Farm was a place where families could work together, and that's something that the Amish value very much. And
While the rest of the world relies on refrigeration, the Amish community continues to flourish without electricity and fancy appliances. They perfected the art of food preservation by staying true to the same reliable techniques across generations. From cooperating among themselves in kitchens to lining up pantries with carefully preserved beauties.
Today, people many times make jams and jellies and preserves, and the way the food is preserved, usually a fruit, is preserved is by means of cooking that fruit.
The Amish show that you can achieve a lot through creativity, good old tradition, and a deep understanding of nature. These methods may be something you only see on reality TV shows, but it's a way of life for the Amish. And one of their most effective techniques? Water bath canning. Canning. If you've come across tightly covered glass jars containing vegetables, pickles, and fruits carefully lined up on shelves, you may be looking at months or years of proper food storage. The first time I tried preserving food in jars, it was only a row on the top shelf, but I still had to answer lots of questions when family members visited. The Amish love to live a life of simplicity, but I can confirm nothing about canning says easy. The first few batches I tried ended up a mess, and that was what kept me through the barrage of questions. Of course, this is never an issue for the Amish who know the technique like the back of their palm. They have relied on this method to keep food safe for a long time, but theirs is even more impressive. Canning is a reliable way to keep food fresh, but it requires precision and care to prevent contamination and spoilage. Again, not a problem for the Amish, who have perfected the art of preserving their harvests, ensuring a steady supply of food throughout the year through canning. Without refrigeration, canning is a vital skill for storing fruits, vegetables, and meats for colder months when fresh produce will be scarce. But just how is it done? The techniques rely on meticulous attention to detail. For water bath canning, which is the most common type and is best suited for high-acid foods such as fruits, tomatoes, jams, jellies, and pickles, the process involves carefully arranging the food in jars that must have been cleaned thoroughly. The jars are sealed and arranged on a rack within a pot to keep them off the bottom of the pot. Then, they fill the pot with water until the jars are fully submerged, with about 2 extra inches of water on top to prevent boiling over. Boiling for a long time heats the contents thoroughly, killing the microbes in the food and creating an airtight seal to preserve the food for years. But water boiling isn't the only way the Amish achieve canning. Steam canning is another effective method for high-acid foods, like fruits and pickled vegetables. Rather than submerging the jars with water, you need just a little water in this method. The steam is allowed to circulate the jars and heat the content evenly. It is faster than traditional boiling and uses less water, but will surely eliminate spoilage microorganisms. No spoilage agents in food means they stay happy on your shelf for a long time. A simple enough concept, but I can't say the same for the process. Tired of seeing me struggle with the jars, timing, and pretty much everything, my wife did a little research and suggested popping the jars into the pressure cooker. Now, pressure canning is a thing. But if you have to use modern appliances, you're not doing it the Amish way and you'll have missed the point. When done properly, canning is super effective, as can be seen throughout histories. In 1974, the National Food Processors Association tested samples from a boat that sank 100 years before and discovered no microbial growth. This means the food was still safe for consumption. Canning is a time-tested method that is practical, deeply rooted in tradition, and passed down from one generation to the next among the Amish. For the Amish, these carefully stashed jars containing preserved food come in handy for times when the harvest doesn't come out as expected. Another wonderful part of storing food this way is that the taste remains the same, allowing you to enjoy the same goodness no matter the season. Now think of a storage room, but not just any storage room. One that keeps everything within it fresh for many months. That's right, I'm talking about root cellars, the Amish refrigerators without a downside. Root cellar.
is much brighter looking than the tomato sauce on this side, and that was just because I cooked this for a really long time and it oxidized a little bit. It tastes okay still.
A root cellar is an underground storage space designed to keep food fresh by leveraging the natural cooling and insulating properties of the earth. For the Amish, who avoid modern technology, root cellars are a critical part of their food preservation strategies. It provides a natural and efficient way to store perishable items without electricity bills, large refrigerators taking up space, and the unending humming. These cellars maintain a consistent temperature and humidity level, making them ideal for storing fruits, vegetables, and even some dairy products. Root crops like potatoes, carrots, and onions, as well as apples and cabbages, thrive in these conditions and can last for months. The last time I helped to fill up a root cellar with food products, I had to carry all types of food, including some I didn't recognize at the time. As for my back, let's just say it didn't thank me. But it was worth it 100%. The feeling I got looking at all the carefully racked jars and sacks was completely new to me. I was ready to pack my things and start living in the cellar, but they told me that wasn't the next step. Now we wait, they said. A root cellar design is simple yet effective. They are typically built underground or partially buried into a hillside to take advantage of the Earth's stable temperature, which ranges between 32 and 40 degrees Fahrenheit or 0 to 4 degrees Celsius throughout the year in many climates. Proper airflow is essential to prevent moisture buildup and spoilage. Most root cellars have ventilation pipes or small openings to circulate fresh air. The thick walls of soil or stone act as natural insulation, keeping the temperature constant regardless of the season. High humidity levels are also maintained to prevent food from drying out while still avoiding mold growth. For the Amish, root cellars are a key part of their self-sufficient lifestyle. During harvest season, Amish families fill their root cellars with crops, ensuring they have fresh produce throughout the winter months. Many root cellars feature wooden shelves to store jars of canned goods, adding versatility to the space. Vegetables are often stored in layers of sand, straw, or sawdust to further enhance preservation and prevent rotting. While modern refrigeration has replaced root cellars for most people, these structures remain crucial to storage in Amish communities. They're even making a comeback among those interested in sustainable living. They require no electricity, are cost-effective to build, and help reduce food waste by extending the shelf life of fresh produce. Root cellars reflect the Amish commitment to living in harmony with nature, using traditional methods to meet their needs. It's a simple, time-tested solution that continues to serve them well, even in today's high-tech world. So far, you've learned about methods that increase the shelf life of foods by inhibiting the actions of microorganisms. But they're not all bad. The Amish also use them for keeping food for a long time in a process known as fermentation. So how do the Amish people use fermentation? Fermentation.
How we make and store an entire year's worth of sauerkraut. I have a full circle moment to share with you. This is a jar of kraut from last year's garden. In fact, it's the last jar. We're just finishing it up.
Fermentation is a centuries-old method of food preservation that harnesses the power of microorganisms to transform and preserve food. It is one of the oldest food preservation methods, and the Amish have embraced it as a natural way to extend the shelf life of certain foods while enhancing their flavor and nutritional value. In this method, you're not trying to eliminate the growth of bacteria and fungi. Instead, you're giving the good ones more opportunities to transform your raw ingredients into preserved, flavorful, and probiotic-rich foods. However, it's not as easy as packing things in a jar and waiting. It's a delicate process that depends on the right amount of brine solution and the perfect timing. I knew this when I tried fermenting the leftover cabbage, but I still was not sure if I was going to eat it. I guess I just didn't trust myself to get it right on the first try. The funny aroma almost put me off, but I persevered. The result, a jar full of delicious sauerkraut. The great thing about fermentation is the many benefits you get from it. The Amish, known for their reliance on traditional practices, use fermentation extensively as a natural, effective way to preserve food and enhance its flavor and nutritional value, way before anyone understood how it works. It is a chemical process. The sugars in food are broken down by microorganisms, such as bacteria or yeast, under conditions that lack oxygen. This process produces acids, alcohol, or gases that act as natural preservatives while creating unique flavors and textures.
Doing it in this layered way is really helpful to make sure that the salt gets as evenly distributed throughout the cabbage as possible so it can start drawing out all the moisture. After the salt and cabbage have been layered in, I let it sit for about 10 minutes and then come back and look at what it looks like. All of the water is starting to be released.
The Amish use fermentation as a practical method to extend the life of their harvest. They ferment a variety of foods, including vegetables, dairy products, and grains. For instance, fermenting shredded cabbage with salt, like I did, creates sauerkraut. It is a staple in Amish households that not only lasts for months, but also provides beneficial probiotics, which support gut health and improve digestion. For dairy products like yogurt and buttermilk, Amish families make their own from milk. These items are not only nutritious, but also versatile in cooking and baking. Cheesemaking involves controlled fermentation and aging, a skill Amish communities have mastered from one generation to another to create long-lasting, flavorful products. What about grains and legumes? To improve digestibility and flavor, beans are sometimes soaked and fermented before cooking in Amish settlements. Fermentation extends the shelf life of perishable foods by creating an environment hostile to harmful bacteria. As the harmful microbes are locked out, the beneficial ones get more room to do their thing. The best part of fermentation is that it requires no electricity or specialized equipment, aligning perfectly with the Amish philosophy of simple, self-sufficient, and sustainable living. Fermentation is an old trick, one that has been reinvented and perfected by the Amish people. With this creative method, they are able to create wholesome, flavorful options that nourish the body and respect the resources made available to us by nature. It's a testament to how microorganisms, often seen as a threat to food preservation, can be harnessed to create delicious, long-lasting foods. From one method that uses tiny organisms to another that leverages smoke. You already know how smoking gives rise to flavorful treats like barbecue. What you don't know is that smoking can keep foods fresh for longer periods. Here's how the Amish communities use this method. Smoking.
All right, guys, so here's the mayo all strung up. I actually just took these out of the smoker. You can see they're...
Smoking is another old food preservation method that the Amish have embraced as a practical and flavorful way to store food for extended periods. This technique uses smoke from burning wood to cure and preserve meat, fish, and even some cheeses. Beyond just prolonging shelf life, smoking infuses the food with a rich, smoky flavor that has become a hallmark of many Amish recipes. The smoking process works by combining heat and smoke to achieve preservation in several ways. First, it removes moisture from the food, making it harder for bacteria and fungi to grow. The compounds in wood smoke, such as phenols and formaldehyde, also have antimicrobial effects, which inhibit the growth of harmful microorganisms. Surface coating is another benefit of smoking that helps to increase the shelf life of foods. Smoke creates a protective layer on the food surface, preventing contamination and extending its shelf life. The Amish use smoking primarily for preserving meats, but they've also adapted it for other food items. Hams and bacon are perhaps the most iconic of the bunch, prepared by making large cuts of pork that are cured with salt or sugar and slowly smoked for days. They come out as long-lasting foods with robust flavors. Sausage is another popular one. Smoked sausages are a staple for the Amish, often prepared with simple seasonings and smoked until they're fully cured. For Amish communities living near rivers or lakes, fish such as trout or salmon are cured and smoked to preserve them for months. Some Amish communities also smoke cheese, adding a unique flavor while slightly extending its shelf life. However, if you've tried barbecuing a small slice of bacon, you know smoking requires expertise and care, from wood selection to timing and flavoring. The smoking experiment I tried many years ago wasn't exactly a disaster. At least I learned key lessons that helped me get better. I can't even remember how I sourced my wood. All I know is the meat had no flavors at all. Then I thought going overboard with seasoning the next batch would do any good, but my taste buds just couldn't handle the overkill. As for the Amish, they often use locally sourced woods like hickory, apple, cherry, or oak to create a balance of sweet and smoky notes. The meats are typically cured with salt, sugar, or a combination of both before smoking. This curing further inhibits bacterial growth and enhances the flavor. Smoked food can last for weeks and months, depending on the food type of food and level of preservation. You can store them in cool, dry places like root cellars or pantries, where they remain safe to eat for months. In today's world of freezers and vacuum-sealed packaging, smoking may seem like a stressful or outdated method for preserving food, but that is not the case. The Amish see smoking as a vital and sustainable method of food preservation because it requires no electricity, aligns with their resourceful lifestyle, and produces delicious, long-lasting food. We've mentioned salting as a part of other methods. That's because of its role in keeping food safe from microorganisms and enhancing the taste, as well as the texture of food. Meanwhile, it's a unique method on its own that the Amish have leveraged for many years. Let's explain how. Salting. Salting is quite straightforward, but the Amish have relied on it for generations to keep their food safe and flavorful. This technique works by drawing moisture out of food, creating an environment where harmful microorganisms cannot thrive. Beyond preservation, salting enhances the taste and texture of food, making it a versatile and essential tool in Amish kitchens. Salt acts as a natural preservative through dehydration, chemical preservation, and texture enhancement. Salt pulls water out of food and microbial cells through a process known as osmosis, reducing the likelihood of spoilage and extending shelf life since bacteria and fungi are unable to grow or multiply. The salting process can firm up the texture of certain foods, such as meats and vegetables, making them more palatable.
Curing meat is a process that I think is best described as magic. It's something I was totally oblivious to before getting into butchery. Meat, covered in salt, left to sit and drain its inner juices.
When I tried salting, I was too concerned about overdoing it. I thought it was the same as adding salt to my scrambled egg and ended up not using enough. What I got was a ham I couldn't stay close to after some days. You know my style already. The next time, I made sure I used all the salt I could find and almost had to shovel everything out of my kitchen when I was done. I learned an important lesson. Moderation is the key. The Amish use salting in various ways to preserve and prepare their food. Dry curing is one of the most popular. It involves cutting large chunks of meat or strips of pork and coating them in salt before leaving them to cure over time. This method also works on fish and vegetables. It keeps the fish fresh for months without refrigeration. As for the vegetables, they are either salted alone or as part of a fermentation process. In addition to dry salting, the Amish often create brine solutions by dissolving salt in water. Foods like pickles, cheeses, and certain meats are submerged in brine to preserve them while infusing them with flavor. Salted foods are stored in cool, dry areas, such as root cellars, where the stable environment helps maintain their quality over time. Before cooking or consuming salted foods, excess salt can be rinsed off to achieve the desired taste. Salting represents another way for the Amish to make the most of their harvests and livestock. It aligns with their off-grid lifestyle and makes food available through all the seasons. With perishable items turned into long-lasting resources, nothing goes to waste, and their hard work can be adequately preserved. Now, to a method we've referenced a couple of times already, drying. Drying.
Up and put them up here to dry. Sorry. Cut them in half, and they're all up here drying right now.
Drying is a simple, sustainable way to preserve everything from fruits and vegetables to meats and herbs, ensuring they have access to nutritious ingredients year-round. It involves removing moisture from food to prevent the growth of bacteria, yeast, and mold. Dried foods, when stored correctly, can last for months or even years without refrigeration. Fruits like apples and pears are sliced and dried as common snacks or ingredients in Amish kitchens. Blueberries, strawberries, and other small fruits are dried for use in baking and cooking. They also dry corn kernels and later rehydrate for soups. Veggies and herbs like basil, oregano, and thyme are other commonly dried foods that are used all year round. Meat jerkies are protein-rich snacks, while grains and legumes are dried to make storage easy. Consider how amazing it would be to have dried meats and fruits as snacks while you take care of the chores at home. Who needs sealed jerkies when you can simply dry what you want yourself? The best part about drying? It is pretty easy to achieve. They can hang the foods or spread them out in well-ventilated sunny areas to dry naturally in a process called air drying. Herbs and vegetables are often strung on twine and hung in kitchens or attics. What do you get when you combine good old vinegar with vegetables and fruits? A wholesome delicacy with a shelf life that can outlive any store-bought food. Pickling. Pickling is a preservation method that combines simplicity, flavor, and longevity, making it a favorite in Amish communities. By submerging foods in a solution of vinegar, brine, or both, pickling extends the shelf life while enhancing their taste. For the Amish, pickling is both a practical necessity and a culinary tradition, with recipes often passed down through generations. Pickling works because it creates an environment where harmful microorganisms cannot thrive. The acidic environment created by vinegar lowers the pH of the food, making it inhospitable for spoilage-causing bacteria. In brine pickling, salt draws out water from the food, preventing the growth of harmful microbes while encouraging beneficial bacteria. Pickling not only preserves food, but also transforms it with tangy, zesty, or spicy flavors, depending on the ingredients used. The Amish use pickling extensively to preserve their harvests and create flavorful staples that can last through the year. Vegetables like cucumbers, cabbage, and beets go through pickling to create delicious and long-lasting Amish cuisines. Fruits like peaches and pears, eggs and meats are not left of the pickling goodness.
Sugar, apple cider vinegar, and a bit of salt. We'll let them boil for a couple more minutes.
When pickling, vegetables, fruits, or other foods are washed, trimmed, and cut into desired sizes. Fruits may also be peeled or cured as needed. Then they are submerged into a jar of brine solution of salt and water or vinegar, mixed with sugar and spices to create a tangy preservation liquid. The jars are sealed or processed in a water bath canner for long-term storage.
You can add these to your salad, serve them next to a sandwich, or eat them as is.
Pickled items are a staple at Amish meals, adding vibrant flavors and a touch of tradition to their plates. The simplicity and versatility of pickling align perfectly with their resourceful lifestyle, turning fresh produce into lasting treasures that nourish both body and spirit. Now, when many look at ash, they see dirt that should be thrown away. Not the Amish. Ash storage.
It's time to pull them out and see if they're any good.
Ash storage is one of the more unconventional yet effective food preservation methods used by the Amish. This centuries-old technique involves burying food items, particularly root vegetables and eggs, in wood ash to extend their shelf life. The method is simple and requires no modern technology. Wood ash absorbs excess moisture, preventing the growth of mold and bacteria that thrive in damp environments. And since ash is alkaline, it creates an environment that inhibits the growth of microorganisms and prolongs the freshness of food. The Amish utilize ash storage primarily for specific food items that benefit from this method. Fresh, unwashed eggs are carefully layered in wood ash within a container, such as a wooden box or ceramic crock. The ash prevents air from penetrating the shells, keeping the eggs fresh for months without refrigeration. It's also used for root vegetables, grains, and nuts. Only wood ash from untreated hardwoods is used, as it is free from chemicals and additives. Ash from softwoods or treated wood can be harmful to food. The ash is sieved to remove large particles, ensuring a fine, consistent texture. Thankfully, this one looks simple enough for me to get right on the first try. But don't congratulate me just yet. I still have to check out my results in a few weeks to see if I'll end up with a disaster or properly stored eggs. If it's the former, I'll just have to try again. Sure, those appliances I'm avoiding are probably going to have a laugh, but I won't mind. My focus is on long-term results, just like the Amish. In case you want to try it too, here's how. A layer of ash is spread at the bottom of the container, food items are placed on the ash, and another layer of ash is added to cover the food completely before storing it in a cool, dry place. By using what they already have, the Amish not only preserve food, but also demonstrate their deep respect for the Earth's resources. This technique, though not as widely known today, remains a testament to the ingenuity and wisdom of Amish communities. It's a simple yet powerful reminder that preserving food doesn't always require advanced technology. Sometimes all you need is a little ash and a lot of tradition. For centuries, the Amish have been storing food using methods that could rival the latest modern technologies. It is a system they have been dedicated to across generations, allowing them to perfect each method. It's no surprise the techniques remain effective today. Leveraging nature and readily available resources, the Amish store and preserve food for years, while retaining and adding more to the quality. Don't you think more people should embrace the Amish way of food storage? Which of the storage techniques mentioned are you willing to try out first? Let us know your answer and other thoughts in the comments below. Don't forget to drop a like and subscribe to the channel for more wonderful content.